The discussion strategy that I found for this week is called team packs. And for team packs, the teacher takes a Ziploc baggie or a pencil pouch, even a mailable envelope you can get from the post office, anything that closes, and they put a slip of paper in it that has a question on it. And these questions will be content. They'll be related to the content that the students are studying at that time. And as we talked about in our textbook this week, there'll be application questions. So they'll promote deep thinking, problem solving, reflecting, and also inferring. They'll require the students to really look in, take a deep dive into the question, and it won't be a question like what's 2 plus 2. It'll be something that requires higher order, deep thinking about the topic. Once they place the questions in all the baggies, they'll sit them at tables, and you can do this in small groups with your in-person students. You can do 2, 3, 4 students in a group, depending on your class size. And each student will start with one baggie. Whenever they get the baggies and you tell them to go, or however you want to do the lesson, they'll open the baggie and they will look at the piece of paper and they will think about what their answers are to that. They'll write down different things that they think, things that they're thinking about related to that question. They'll write down answers that they've come up with, hypotheses that they have for that question, just different things. They'll write it all on that slip of paper, and then whenever you say time's up, you tell them to switch. They'll close everything back in their baggie, and they'll move it on to the next table. That table will also get out the piece of paper that has the question on it, but they'll also be able to see all of the things that the table before them came up with. So it's kind of a building on the group before you's discussion. But every group will also start out with one question that they didn't get to see what people before them had thought about. This will also require students to give more answers than just an initial answer. Sometimes whenever you have whole group discussions, one student may answer and every other student's like, yeah, I agree with them. But in this case, every single group has to come up with something to add to it. Whether it's text evidence or it's deeper analysis, something has to be added at each time that it goes. For virtual students, you can create a Google Slides template. And on this Google Slides template, you can share it with all of your students. And this could even be done in the classroom if you're trying to social distance and not get kids in the same, right on top of one another working together. You can make a Google Slides template, share it with all of your students, and then you can tell them which slide to go to or which group that they're in. They can click on that. They can even be in Google Meets and open up that Google Slides together. They can click on the slide, and then that will redirect them to whatever their question is. And they can, as a group, type whatever their answers are, and then leave it for the next group. And then they can go back and click on another folder, take them to a new question, and then add to. This could also be done individually if you wanted to do it like that, and just have each individual students go through and click on all of the folders. If you wanted something that each individual student could do, if you didn't want to make this into a group discussion, it could be individual discussion. I chose this discussion strategy because not too long ago, a couple weeks ago, I've really been getting into poetry and books, like prose poem books. And I had talked to a friend of mine, and she said that she had a couple books that consisted of poems that she had lent to a lot of her friends. And whenever she would lend the book to a friend, they would write all of their thoughts and stuff in the margins and then give it back to my friend, and then she would give it to another person and they would write their notes. So it's kind of like an ongoing discussion within that book. Everybody was seeing what the other people thought about it. They were making connections to their lives, making connections to other people, and it kind of got this big discussion going amongst everybody who had read the book about, okay, you think this, I think this, or how did you interpret this? I interpreted it this way. And I thought that idea was really cool whenever my friend told me about it, and whenever I found this team packs discussion strategy, I thought that it was kind of similar, and it really intrigued me. By incorporating this strategy in my future classroom, I hope to I hope that my students have more thoughtful, concentrated discussions, because this will be small group discussion where they'll be in small groups with their little team packs. It'll make it to where students don't have to be afraid to speak out because they're in their small groups, or it's not a whole class thing. They don't have to put their names on what their thoughts are, what their comments are, so it's private, just amongst their group. And also it doesn't, sometimes in whole group discussions, students can get away from the discussion. They can start thinking about different things and not be concentrated, and so these small groups allow the students to really think and just be concentrated on what they are, the task at hand, and just their little group. So, yeah.